Welcome to the Men Are Forged podcast. This is your host, Cartwright Morris. For today's episode, I want you to go on to menareforged.com/the purpose journey. What the purpose journey is a 2-hour coaching session to the better understanding, better application of who you are and why you're here. The results of what you're getting in this coaching session is what actions to take, who you want to influence, and above all, how to actually activate people in and through what you do. That is the purpose journey. That is what I'm after in helping you discover how to apply your purpose to every part of your life, work, family, relationships, and your overall life of how you impact and you influence others through living out your purpose. So go to menareforged.com/the purpose journey. Looking forward to it. All right. Exciting episode today on Men Are Forged. Got Tim Branyan here coming from Indiana. What did you say your town was? I can't even remember.
The Hoosiers, man. Kokomo, Indiana.
Kokomo.
Not the island. Not the
I'm about to say, I was thinking the Beach Boys, and I'm thinking of Bobby Knight, and I don't think those two things go together.
No, they weren't on the same island, I don't think.
Well, man, excited to have you in today.
Yeah, pumped to be here, man. And glad to be here. Hopefully I can be of some value to your audience.
Oh, awesome, man. Well, I mean, the first question, I always like try to go a little bit back, early influences. And so, I'm kind of curious, just like adolescence, what was a monumental moment, or what was like a wake up call for you, or maybe even just a decision you made. I mean, that's kind of sitting there thinking about us in high school, but what decision you thought you made in high school or as a teenager that really you're thankful for today?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah. So restlessness and discontent has always been the start to change for me. I love when people are actually there. Or when I get there and I realize it forces me to audit. I think it forces us all to audit.
Yeah.
In the event that we're looking for change. Restlessness and discontent for me was always the start to change. So for me, an early kind of pivotal moment in my life was, I was hanging around with the wrong guys. Still love them to this day, but they weren't going anywhere fast. Neither was I. Partying, chasing chicks. My priorities were all centered around that, really. I put a lot of energy into figuring out where the party was going to be at or what girl I was going to try to chase.
Right.
And to be honest, if I'm being honest with you, I didn't have a whole lot to offer back then. Mm-hmm. I always knew that I could do great things, but it was up to my choices. So, honestly, I'll be raw and real on this podcast. When I was 18 years old, I was arrested for underage drinking. My partying had gotten, it caught up to me. Mm-hmm. And it was the worst day of my life up to that point, having to call my dad. I grew up kind of poor, lower middle class. And my dad did not have the type of money it was going to cost to get me out of the situation. Yeah. But he came and got me. I had to give this call that, hey, Dad, I made a mistake. I messed up. And I'm calling him from a county jail. It's cringy even like thinking about saying it out loud. Yeah. And it was that moment that the car ride home, and my dad didn't even say a word, that it was worse than any sort of, lashing out he could have given me, or I almost wanted that. And he didn't say a thing. And I knew it was at that moment I had to change. So I very, I'll say strategic. It was simple, but strategic. Looking around at where I was and where other people were at. And I was a senior in high school, and I was watching guys come back home from college, and I was watching guys come back home from the military that made that choice. And a lot of the guys that were coming back from the military were healthy. They looked fit. They spoke differently. They had a nice car. They had money where they could buy a drink. A lot of times people rallied up and they came back home for spring break. And the guys that went out to college, a lot of them just didn't have the same energy and enthusiasm. They maybe put on a few pounds. They didn't have any. They were all just kind of bumming it, hanging out. It was like they were still in high school in a way.
Yeah.
So I started becoming curious. I've always been an aggressively curious dude, trying to figure out what what the guy at the gym is doing, or the guy that has a Ferrari is doing, or what they're reading, what they got going on. Success, my ideal success. So I asked questions. Long story short, I joined the military initially for the benefits. I got a lot more out of it than I intended. I made some of my best friends all around the planet. Mm-hmm. I was able to go to good places and bad places that sharpened me and characteristics that I still utilize today in my business, in my family, in my life. Uh-huh. And, I think that those characteristics and desire to excel are still in me, competing and getting ultimately towards, freedom.
Yeah.
But that was probably the first pivotal moment for me, was that restlessness, discontent, crazy decision to join the military. It was 2009. So, mm-hmm. It was right around 9/11.
Yeah.
And, that radically changed my life, changed my decisions, changed who I was and what I had to lose. And It put me in this place where I was starting to refine myself and starting to, sharpen some of my skills and learn some characteristics like showing up on time and being disciplined, even when no one's watching. Right. That was, kind of the first chapter of my life. I'll try to make this really quick. So then afterwards, I became obsessed with true freedom. How do I attain my ideal lifestyle? Because they call it the service for a reason. It's working my face off.
Right.
And, so I jumped into contracting. That was a little bit afterwards. I worked overseas for about 3.5 years in Dubai and Kuwait, doing similar stuff to what I did in the military. And I was miserable, dude. I was making a lot of money. I was not happy. There was fragments and moments of happiness with the people there. I've never had a toxic mentality, but I wasn't aligned with what I was supposed to do. And I felt like I was missing out. I was in this place of discontent again, restlessness. And I would look at quotes about time and it would just rock my core. It's like, hey, I got to do something. What's it going to be? So instead of just wallowing in my own self-pity and not taking action, I started taking notes. I had a big binder where I was writing down everything from like a hot dog stand to a hookah lounge or a coffee bar, or maybe franchising. And, I wrote everything down. And the goal was to make even half of what I was making as a Department of Defense contractor, but own my time and own my freedom. So I didn't have to clock in and I didn't have to be, trading my life for dollars.
Right.
And, I had a high level of belief in my ability to get into the tech space. Got into that. It's been 9 years now. But software and apps made sense for me because it was lower risk. Didn't have to have a whole lot of employees. There wasn't $100,000, $200,000, $500,000 buy-in like a franchise. It just all made sense. And I had belief. Fast forward today, I've built multiple multi-million-dollar apps like individually, and I've worked with companies all over the world, and just really having a good time and keeping the center focus on our clients and their results. And that's where we're at now, man. Now I'm building a personal brand, getting out of my own way. And here we are.
You gave me a big 30,000 foot view. So I'm going to start trying to dig into those spots now a little bit. Cool. I mean, first off, just so how many years were you in the military?
I was in the military for about 6.5 years.
In the Air Force. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
United States Air Force.
And what made you choose the Air Force? Today's episode is brought to you by Thrive Marriage Lab. If you want your marriage to thrive, this is a great opportunity to you. Because strong marriages are the bedrock of strong churches, organizations, families, and community. This is a 12-month pathway for any of you that are looking to really have weekly engagement with experienced marriage counselors. Not just one, but many. So go to restory.life/thrive to get on the waiting list for this great program that starts in April. That's restory.life/thrive. And make sure you put the word Forge in the promo code to receive a discount on your monthly fee. Now, back to the episode.
So initially I was thinking the Marines. and this is how simple my head was, just because of how good the uniform looked. I was like, man, that's a good looking uniform. I'll look sharp in that.
Right.
But ultimately, I talked to my uncle. My uncle was a chief, master sergeant, the highest enlisted rank you can get to in the Air Force, and he had a really good life carved out. And I asked him, and he said, ultimately, it's your choice, but here's a quick breakdown of how these services work. Mm-hmm. And I opted into more of the technical side and building a resume, and instead of just going out and I ended up picking a good choice. I think a lot of people knock the Air Force, but it's a pretty cozy branch, and they do treat you a little bit different than some of my other brothers and sisters out there.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. And you talked about, one, discipline, showing up on time. What were some of the other big takeaways you had from just being in the military?
Just so service before self mentality. Mm-hmm. We're always on a mission, and typically the mission, you're in direct alignment with, doing something so someone else can do their job or do their role, or, so you can protect someone or something, et cetera. So a service before self mentality, focusing on the objectives. And then I think just, the deep desire to have an impact. Like, I'm not really, so my motivations aren't really money centered. It's a good tool to see, okay, things are working, we're creating volume. The money is the tool to grow and scale and expand. Mm-hmm. But as far as like, being motivated by money, it's not really me. I'm motivated by impact and accolades and results that we can see. Yeah. And that's, I think that was all instilled by the military as well.
Yeah, that's great. So, that's interesting you say that, because, one of the things you've been talking about is freedom. And so much of people, I think too many people probably put the money, the financial component, as the big component when it comes to my own freedom and independence. So mm-hmm. So you saw that as a tool to your freedom. So maybe just kind of unpack to me is like, yes, just like, that sounds like a big word for you. And that freedom, and what is the financial component to that?
I always, let me explain this. So you are as rich, it's really just a ratio, how much you spend versus how much you make. Right. So where I live, even right now, if you make $100,000 where I live, and let's say you spend, $20,000 a year on your expenses, or $30,000 a year on expenses, you're a rich dude. Now, if you go out to California or, Southern California, other areas, you make $100,000, you can pay rent that year. Maybe, I don't know. Right. It just depends. And so I always tell people what is the number? What is the number that you want to make in order to set up an ideal lifestyle? When you get into the details of that, when you start thinking about who am I, what do I want to do? In most cases, about 10 to 20 grand a month, you're in really good shape. Really, really good shape. You can do a lot with that. Anything beyond that's very much excess, I believe. Maybe that's wrong. It allows you to do different things. There's, I think just having a reason and getting into the details of like that freedom number. Yeah. I've always called it a freedom number. Yeah. For you, that can be the objective. And then as you're thinking about that freedom number, be thinking about the people that you're going to serve, because you're paid in direct proportion to your ability to get people results. That's it. Skills pay the bills. Your ability to help, X amount of people every month, every day, every year will result in that transaction and getting you to higher numbers. But yeah, so for me specifically, initially early on, my freedom number was only like $10,000 a month. If I can make $10,000 a month, I'm in great shape. Right. And that's what I kind of, started putting together.
And so and in your mind, that wasn't working for a company. That wasn't getting in a career. That was, hey, I got to start figuring this out myself. I am my own boss here. Entrepreneurial thinking. And was that you? Have you always been like that? Or was that something that really developed military or post-military life?
I've always had a creative, I guess I didn't always have it. I developed the desire for true freedom when I discovered the reality of the workforce. When I got into working, and I'm not a bad employee at all. I typically worked a job and minded my freedom or minded my business on the back end with a great attitude. I knew my role. I think working on something as an owner, as a CEO, gave me a better lens on what, I could give as an employee. And I actually really enjoyed in some components being just an employee versus, somebody that was in charge of making decisions, in charge of the company policies, in charge of the, having the answers and such. Just playing an employee role was actually really nice. I remember. And so I developed the desire for and really the necessity of it after being in the workforce. So for me, I looked at what was being made, as far as money wise, I was making $4,000 a month at the times that I was working, and outside of the civilian contracting stuff, but $2,000 to $4,000 a month. And that was, my steady paycheck. That was all there. And then I looked at, just got into the numbers. Is this going to be enough in 40 years? Do I want to work for 40 years? Am I setting myself up for, a letdown? Am I going to be able to live an ideal life if I just do this? Am I going to be happy with this decision I made to stay here and do this? And these are the questions I asked myself. And the truth was no, and instead of it being no and not doing anything about it, I said no in my head and started planning it with belief. And I started deciding, okay, what can I do? What is my response to this, thought out reality of the future? And the truth is information's out there. You can get on Google, you can get on YouTube, you can listen to podcasts, you can connect with people. We live in a really exciting time where no one's really off limits. You could send a celebrity a DM if you wanted to. You could find their videographer, you can find their photographer and work through that, or maybe their hairdresser, whatever. There's so many different ways. It's just, you have to decide to get out of your own way and get in the way of your goals and success. And that's really the hardest part, I think, for initial, liftoff is somebody, what they think about themselves, what they believe about their abilities. And that's a whole different other, gym, if you will, or mind gym or workout program. That's probably what you help a lot of folks with, right? It's
interesting. One just the first thing you said, that phrase, restlessness that leads to change. Is that kind of what
restlessness and discontent, man. Typically.
I think so many of my audience and men I know, like, they resonate the restlessness, but I don't know if they see it as like the catalyst to some type of change in their life. But it sounds like what you did right in between that change was questions. What's the good questions? Yes. Like, what do I actually want to do? What do I want to like? Was it like, how did that start coming about? And maybe for my audience, what is maybe a good question for them to ask if they're feeling in that restlessness right now?
That's a great question. I think, first of all, there's two different responses that I've seen. And I'm the other one. I'll describe it. So I've seen men and people in general, just when things get tough, they either shrink and get real quiet, and you get your frog in your throat and you get in your feelings and woe is me. And I get it. It sucks. It's like getting punched in the face, like somebody stole your ice cream cone, as a kid. It's bad. However, I think the prosperous response is to realign yourself with affirmations and the reality. And this is my opinion, that we are made from the same substance that binds galaxies. We were created in the image of God. We are, in some capacity, gods with our ability to imagine, to think, to create. Everybody that's listening right now, if you look around the room, everything was designed first in somebody's mind, thoughts. So it's really, really important how you think about yourself and how you imagine, your change. And when you're, and it's hard work. And I think that's why restlessness and discontent is always a start to it, because it's necessary. And as, I think that, that's a good I hope that adds some value. And some folks that are listening, if they are in a place of restlessness and discontent, I think a question to ask yourself is, if not you, then who?
Right.
Who? And realize that the people that are out there that you admire that are doing things are choosing to do those things. They're choosing every day to wake up, make their bed, brush their teeth, eat a healthy breakfast, shop for healthy foods, go to the gym, be in environments where they're around other people that are strengthening them and encouraging them. They're reading books, they're getting new information and downloading those updates. They are actively investing in the character, idea, or vision for themselves and their life and their family. It takes effort. For the folks that are really down and out, don't stay there long, would be my advice. Don't stay there long. You don't want to be in that place too long. You're meant to do things. I believe that. I believe we're all meant to do things. We all have gifts, talents, skills. And for those to die with you is a huge tragedy. Massive tragedy. People need to hear your music. People need to, especially now more than ever, we need people to stand up and take initiative and action on the things that their responsibilities is what I call it.
Yeah.
Response to your ability.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's good. And that personal belief is a journey within itself, right? Of figuring that out and then saying, yeah, this is who I am. This is my contribution to humanity.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
It's so hard to become the expert and give yourself permission to be the expert, or give yourself permission to be the badass. Like, it's, you have to work at it. I think for me, I started looking at it more like the gym, like the mind gym. And, my workouts. What could I do to strengthen my conscious and subconscious mind? What could I consume nutritionally in my brain? Right? What was I going to practice? And over time, I had to work at it. Just like everybody else, I have doubts. But I'll be damned if I stay in that, very long. I have to change the way that I think.
Yeah, change the way you think. That's a really good. Yeah, which is that's where the questions come. I got to change. If I'm going to go anywhere, I have to start. It doesn't start with behavior. It starts actually a mindset change. So that's really good. Tim, really break down a little bit more. So for you, that went into your strengths, your contribution. You're like, man, apps, technology. And really, like you said, 9 years ago, so that's feels like early days because it just feels like it's everywhere, but it's still very early. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was enthusiasm on fire. I didn't have any skill at that point. I didn't know. I still to this day, like I know a lot of infrastructure stuff. I can hang if we're talking techie, different tools, or I understand different languages, but can I write code? Do I write code? Not a single line.
Oh, wow.
I can copy and paste some stuff, but I'm not a coder. I am more so a product and project manager. I have an amazing team, which over time, failing enthusiastically led me to, and being consistent and being committed, not quitting when I think a lot of people would have, just being honest. I've had tears in my business. I've had stressful moments. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars not being successful.
Yeah.
A lot of people haven't spent $1,000 investing and learning something or getting a coach, or, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars failing. And the reality is there's other guys that have spent millions, investing and learning. I say failing, learning. That's another mindset thing, to shift that to fail enthusiastically and seek the growth from the pains, growth from the efforts of progress require that you learn.
Yeah.
And for me, I got into the tech space and have been learning. I'm still learning. I'm still a student. I'm flying. I told you before we got on here, I'm flying out to San Diego. I'm going to this thing called the War Room. It's Ryan Dice. I don't know if anybody knows those folks, but these are guys that are big gorillas in the internet marketing and tech world. And I want to be around people that are at higher levels than me. It's a necessity. If I want to grow, if I want to get better at something, I have to position myself and get in the way of new information, get in the way of, opportunity. And I'm actively, right. It's like an 8-hour flight, with a layover, but I'm investing.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's, I get off on a tangent. I'm ADD as well, so hang with me. But, yeah, so I got into the tech space, and I've been learning, and, we built this platform recently. It's one of several that I own. It's called TrueFans.
Mm-hmm.
And
TrueFans.com, right? That's the look. Yeah.
Yeah. TrueFans with a Z.com. And it's, I think it'll probably do like 5 or 6 million this year,
nice.
Which is exciting. It's doubling what we did last year. And the goal is to triple it. So, I'm investing in learning, just setting up different architecture, serving our client base better, creating systems and things to scale. And, that all started with, looking back again, I'm thinking about who we're talking with here. These are startups. These are people that are maybe in a rut and trying to figure out what they need to do or what they could do. Mm-hmm. And don't set out to have a good idea per se. Set out to find problems, set out to see and observe things that suck that you can help with. And a primitive way of looking at that is somebody's grass is long. Well, you have a lawnmower. You could help cut grass. How many grass, lawns would you have to cut in order to make X? How much market is out there? What's the demand, right? How can you be in front of the demand? How can you solve that problem, do a great job and earn more clientele? That's just one methodology. But I always, and I use that firsthand whenever I'm building a new platform, is I typically start with what sucks, what's going on in the market, or I just kind of stumble upon it and I'm observe it and listening and watching. So for us, man, and everybody knows this, content's being suppressed. People are being demonetized. Creators historically haven't made enough money. And people are just now discovering that they are the product of big platforms, right? Their data is being sold and distributed and they don't make any money of it, right? They get the functionality, but the reality is your data is being used in a ton of different ways for financial profit. And, that sucks. And people are becoming more keen and understand more what's going on. And then you as a creator, you don't really own your data. You don't own your customer data. You don't own your emails. And that's an asset, like as a business person or an e-commerce brand. So for us, we looked at the market. We looked at other competitors. I'm not going to say their name. And we just had a high level of belief we could do a better job and we could stand out. And that's really what you're doing when you're trying to, decide where you can solve a pain in the market is look what's out there. Most of the time there's something out there, and then figure out what your fancy sauce is going to be, what you're going to do that makes yours even better. And try to become the logical choice. That's what we've always done. The logical choice platform, product, service. So for us, we did things like created instant payments. So people don't have to wait for our platform. We're just to give everybody, I don't know how many people are familiar with membership platforms, but we're very similar to like a Patreon or an OnlyFans. Gotcha. The biggest difference with us is that we're 100% invite only. We have instant payments that I just mentioned that just launched. We don't allow adult content. So we're a home for folks that would love to have one of those platforms, but not the negative stigma. Mm-hmm. And we've just been rocking out additional features and functions that no one else has. And we're listening with the intent to serve and engineer. Mm-hmm. And we hope to keep the finger on the pulse as we keep growing and our ear to the ground, listening to what's important for our users. So we can create those things and maintain, being a logical choice for them to build their businesses and brands and audiences on. Mm. So if you're listening to what I'm saying there, I'm in the service of my clients. I'm in the service of my developers. I am in the service of, I try to be in the service of everyone that's in my sphere. Yeah. And I think, that mindset, especially in business, is going to help you become in line with your goals, whatever those are, monetarily, fulfillment wise, Yeah.
Anyway. Man, Tim, that was really good. I just, you got my mind going, the creative space of just, wow. It's such a powerful thing because it's so needed today, just with where technology is and where, like you said, like content, the big brands are basically looks like they're taking over the world, and we just need more and more people that are more localized.
Need to be able to have discussions and dialogue, and people need to be able to share, even if I disagree, even if you disagree, anybody disagrees, like not having a conversation because somebody is offended or not having a conversation or dialogue, that's unfortunate, and we go backwards if we're not able to really talk. And I'm talking about mankind in general, or human beings in general. The moment that we're not able to dissect ideas or, go through them without losing our cool, without, getting too emotional. It's okay to have a passionate conversation, but man, when those are eliminated, that's a sketchy thing in my opinion.
Because even you said it earlier, how important it was for you to fail within your business, meaning you get it wrong and you learn how to get it right. The same thing, I think, in thought and thinking, like, oh, I think something that's wrong, and I get feedback and response of like, all right, this has helped me nuance, think through, understand how to get it right. It's like
100%.
Any sociologist that had any saw whatsoever, like how to raise a child is to expose them to things and to experience things that are hard, because that leads to growth. But for some reason, we've been called to like some society that has just created, like you're saying, like a language.
Yeah, we it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to have different ideas. I think it's okay. I think it's important. It's important to have winners and losers. I think it's important to, it's okay to be recognized for participation, I think, but awarded for it.
Right.
I don't know. I just have different opinions on this, man. And that's where I stand. And I think, competition creates not just competition, but having dialogue just creates progress, true progress, expansion.
Yeah. And I think every person we look up to, admire, they had some story. They had some point in their life where they failed royally, or they hit, like you saying, they hit some bump, or they lost. They literally, like all our favorite athletes, like my favorite part of like the Jordan documentary was him when he got beat up by the Pistons and he was beat down. You're like, oh, and he said, that's what made me great. And you're like, if we didn't have that, we wouldn't have Michael Jordan.
Right.
Like stuff like
it's
that.
Huge. Anyway, it's huge. And it's good to hear and see when you hear other people, like other men that are in pursuit of their thing. Like when I failed for hundreds of thousands of dollars, a whole year went by and, we didn't have a product to show for it, just tears, heartache, all the emotions and such. But looking back at that, it was that created even more of a fire. And then also, I went and searched. I accidentally found this post of some entrepreneur guy was asking what people's largest fail was, and everybody was posting their numbers of like how much they had failed for. And there were dudes in this chat that had failed for like 5 million, or they closed their company, or they had to do this stuff. And I was just like, my gosh! And here I am, like upset about my measly 100K, and these guys was 5 million, 10 million. So it's good to see and hear other people that and then realize you're not special.
How about problems. That? Yeah, that's good. Well, Tim, I want to jump back into your story a little bit more. So speaking of that hard time, and especially early on in the app space, was there someone that you really pulled on? Was there a mentor? Was there someone who came alongside you? Yeah. What kind of people did you start really gravitating towards?
Right. So I've always been able to find people that can help in different areas, different strengths that I don't have. One of the guys that actually got me in to the tech space didn't really care to work with the dev team. So he brought me in and we worked on a project together, and I was more project manager, and he was, internet marketer type that was going to do distribution. Because that's a key component. You build something, product or service, you need to sell it. You need to push it out there. You need to have a means to do that. So that's really where I got exposed to a lot of the internet marketing tools, internet marketing thought processes and funnels, right? These unique behavioral mechanisms that keep you in front of your customer, being omnipresent. There's a lot of intricacies with that, but that was a good friend of mine. His name's Chris Beatty. And then I've got wonderful mentors even now that I've just had. One is a senior engineer at a company called 15.5. His name's Brad. He's like the most I admire Brad a ton because he's very versatile. He's an amazing developer, but he's also got a very strong like business acumen. He understands, startups. He understands things of that nature. And then as far as just having people in my corner, my circle is pretty small. But I think that is really important to have people that'll root for you and not give you, tell you can do it versus you can't. You need to separate from those people if you can with love, but distance yourself from the people that are going to take you down.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are some of mine. My wife has become more and more so like a springboard for me. Mm-hmm. And I always have these crazy ideas and I keep her awake but she's very tolerant and helpful to sharing ideas and, those are some of my mentors, I guess.
Yeah. How did you meet your wife?
So we actually met in Kokomo where I live. She had moved back from Austin, Texas. I just came back from contracting. All my family's around here. So I was just determined to go home and be around everybody and be able to do the Christmas stuff. And, where I live, it's very cost effective to live. So it made sense. Like I wanted to have, my chunk of earth here and, kind of make this base home station.
Yeah.
So I was not looking for a wife at all. I was actually, in the He-Man Woman Haters Club. A girl that I was dating, she actually cheated on me. And I was just like, dude, I'm never talking to girls again. I'm just going to make money. And then next thing you know, I meet this really sweet, well-spoken, professional, beautiful girl. And, I've been all around the world, man. And I've seen women from all around the world. I met a lot of people and she was different. And that's the first thing I said. I said, you're different. And she didn't know what I was saying at the time. I was like, you're very different. And I'm not going to ignore how I feel right now. It was like, and she didn't know fully what I meant at the time, but that's how it all started. And then she started cooking me lunch and dinner. I was working on my houses they bought when I came back. And that's how it was. We started as friends, we started as homies and 5 years later now, 5 years and 2 kids later, we've been married and in a very busy fun chapter of life.
Yeah. That's what it sounds like, man. That's great. Man, there's so many questions. Yeah. I just, even like you just mentioned traveled again. Cause I know, for me, my story, exposure and getting to travel has been such a part of my development. So
yes.
Yeah. Think of just some of the other, just off the top of your head, some of the places that you really remember that really affected you personally, professionally, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So Iraq, that was a good one.
There's that one. Yeah. How about that?
I'm an Iraqi, war veteran or Iraqi campaign medal veteran. So when I was 18 years old, I was deployed to Iraq, and that was a very scary, radical experience where, I lived, it's like living in the hood, but in the hood, these guys have RPGs, these guys have AKs. Yeah. It's a little different. So you're always, watching your back, you're looking at the ground, you're in a heightened state of, very heightened state of awareness all the time. So, some people really struggle with that. They can't turn it off when they get home. They, while they're over there, they're high anxious. If you're deployed for a year, 6 months, whatever, or more, you kind of develop this tactical thinking, if you will. That's what I call it. So anyway, that experience changed my life in a sense of just gratitude. I got to probably the lowest point in my life where I was just I was mad at the world. I was 18 years old. I look back, I was a baby in the middle of Iraq. I was literally a child, and I had to grow up really quick, and I had a lot of responsibilities, and I had people that were counting on me in various situations, to maintain a security or maintain, my checks before we went outside and did our perimeter scans and things like that. I'm thankful for some of the other guys that were there, the various Marines, the MARSOG dudes that were out there, the Army folks that were out there actually going into the villages and stuff. I was fortunate to stay around some of the perimeters. But yeah, man, just a radical experience there that kind of shaped my when I came home, I remember just looking at green grass and thinking like, oh, this is wonderful. And then running water, having a car and hearing like nice music in your car. It's just things that you take for granted. Having a refrigerator with cold beverages and all these things that you can be super grateful for. Shoot, being able to make a right turn and go into a restaurant or a grocery store. Having my own room. I was living in a room with 4 dudes with a year's worth of gear, and it's this tiny little box. So all these little, plus the heat too. I mean, it's really, really hot in the desert. I don't know if anybody knows that. Ski with. It's very hot, and people are trying to wipe you out. So that was a radical experience that shaped my life, and I'm forever grateful for it. I wouldn't change it. And then I've been to Indonesia, I've been to Ireland, I've been to Kuwait, Qatar, Abu Dhabi. I've been to all these radical places where, I'm the new guy. And if you can, I would highly suggest everybody travel and just see the world. And it opens your eyes to, different cultures and different ideas and different friends. And so all of those changed my life probably in a different way. Each time I've been to a different place, I've absorbed something different or made a different friend or had a conversation or experienced, even racism. I'm a white dude, North American white dude in where was I? I was in Qatar. No, this was Kuwait. I was in Kuwait and I'm in line and I'm a second-class citizen, maybe a third-class citizen.
Yeah.
So in the event that, I was at the grocery store and there was a Kuwaiti guy and he had some stuff in his hands and I'm in line, like I'm next, and he just cut me. And like me, I'm an American.
Yeah.
I'm like,
no, you can't do that.
Who the hell do you think you are? Yeah. No. And then, I had this moment in my head where it's like, you know what, if he genuinely believes that he's better because of how he looks or where he's from, I feel bad for him because he's missing out on like who I am as a person, missing out on who and it's like, I'm not trying to change the way you think per se. Like, you're there. That's cool. I wish you all the best. But it was like this radical, first time I've ever experienced, like racism, like straight up, like just being treated differently because of how I look.
Right.
In a negative way. And so it was just like, all right, it's unfortunate, man. But what is the, how do what would I even do in this situation? How could I even change? It's the way that you think. It's the way that you are. Right. I'm just going to keep being who I know I am and doing what I, anyway, that was a profound experience.
Yeah, I bet. I had similar when in Jerusalem, standing outside of some guy's store, not even going in the store. And he came out and was just like, could see I'm with a black friend of mine and my white face. And he's like, get the F out of here.
Wow.
And it's just you're just like, oh, you just see me. And it's like, oh, I get it. It's like almost to start registering what racism is. Like, oh, I'm purely judging you because of how you look and because you're different than me.
That's it. And it's the most ignorant, foolish.
Yeah.
Whoever's on the other side of it, I honestly feel bad because it's like, dang, man, you're there still. It's 2022, man. Like you're still there where you're looking at what somebody looks like. Yeah. To give them, to treat them. And people do it in other things too. Your title, how you dress, your skin color, of course. And it's just like, dang, man, you're missing out.
Right. You are
missing out on some experiences.
You want to stay in your little silo the rest of your life. Yeah.
I've had it, man. But I just recognize it and just press on.
Yes, we're kind of coming up on time here, Tim, but I had one question I got to ask you is really, so what's the, you talked about, money's not the driver for you. You talk about, hey, we've made really good living this year, but we want to triple that. So what is the driver? What is the reason why you do what you do?
So right now, and I'm glad I'm able to answer this now. And it's changed since, the reason why I want to make money now is to fulfill a purpose. And one of my new purposes, because we got to this part of the mountain where we made it and here we are. And then I kind of lost some of my vision. It's like, okay, now what? I got to this objective, but why do I want to get to the next one and next one? What's it going to do? So just recently, I've been in the details of starting an incubator. Like I want to fund and develop my own incubator here in Kokomo. I already bought the domain. It's called the Colab, KOLAB. And I imagine dispersing it out, but starting here with a proof of concept. Our office will be there, but I want to create an invite only, almost like mastermind group of people local or within the area that would have their office space there, have their community. And I want to build out the aesthetics, and I'm looking at like the vision of it, what the inside will look like, how things will be set up. So that costs money, right? It'll be, if we do it really right, it might be a few million. And, we've got to have that in order to facilitate it and grow it. And then the next thing is, going along with purpose is taking what we've built with our technology at True Fans and finding a large nonprofit, like missionary company or missionary group or some nonprofit that could benefit from changing the way that their I don't know if they're called employees, they're people, right? Collect income and showcase the results of that income to their supporters and to their, to the people that are donating to those various causes. So, almost like an interactive, GoFundMe, or more social GoFundMe, like take that technology. So I'm thinking about that. I'm aligning those different potential plays. And, that for me is changing the company from like profit to purpose. And of course, things have to make money. Everybody has a lifestyle that they, need to live for them and their families, but bringing the technology more so into that realm would be really exciting.
Yeah.
Even more exciting. Like the creator stuff's awesome, but imagine all the impact, let's say a missionary that's in Guatemala has 100 subscribers that are on their live stream as they're going live, and they're showing them the wells that they're digging in Guatemala. Yeah. And all these supporters and patrons can see that. And they're contributing in real time and watching the faces, the facial expressions of the people and how their dollars are going to serve. Yeah. And that's just one component like of the functionality. So it's really cool thought that I want to see flourish.
Yeah, absolutely. As someone who's spent a lot of my adult life with nonprofits, there's so much impact, but yet to create something where it makes nonprofit people generally don't think solution oriented or functional, practical, and to create something that'll help them think that way more. So therefore they get more. It's like, and they can do more. Yeah. And that, so when I hear you, that vision a little bit, man, that's really exciting. So thank you.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Yeah. I would love just to give any kind of plug for what you're doing. Is it, truefriends.com, and love to or where people can find you and want to find out more about you. So.
Yeah. So, my website should be done this week. We're doing an update to it. So if you want to connect with me, my social medias are on there. You can Google Tim Branyan, but my website's timbranyan.com. As far as the True Fan stuff, if somebody is a creator or somebody has an audience already, or if you want to monetize, your community or reach, or if you know somebody who could, you can, I'm going to go ahead and send you Cartwright access to do it, and then they can get with you direct. But the website's truefans.com. You have to be invited. It's 100% invite only. You can apply. Wow. But the best way to get through is to get in touch with you, Cartwright, and then you can decide if you send out an invite, and then it will create kind of a group prosperity. So I'll make sure to set you up with access. So just get with Cartwright on that, and he can shoot you an invite if it makes sense.
Just bringing people together. That's what I love doing. So
that's it, cool.
Well, Tim, I appreciate you coming on, man. This was a blast. It was easy. You're easy to listen to, man. And I love what you're doing. So
appreciate it, dude. Thank you again for the opportunity. And I was glad to be here as well, man. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too, buddy.
Thank you for listening to the Mentor Forge podcast. Exciting new development I have for you today is I am taking on partners and sponsors for the podcast. I'm looking for people that are really wanting to help men step into their purpose, implement in their life, and influencing, impacting others at a greater scale. So if you're interested in helping this podcast grow, helping the Mentor Forge brand really expand its reach, go to mentorforge.com/sponsors, and and you can sponsor an episode. You can be part of this journey, part of people discovering their purpose, and also you get your own little personal brand and your company or product really put on a specific episode to really expand your reach as well as mine. So thank you for listening to the podcast, and just want to create an opportunity for you to partner with what we are doing here at Men Are Forged Podcast. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next time.